All right, guys, we're live. Happy Friday. It's Labor Day weekend for those of us in the United States. Today is September 4th, and you're hanging out with my community manager, the community built by, for, and managed by community managers. As always, we have our Twitter chat going on at hashtag CMGR Hangout. So, hey, everybody on Twitter, thanks for stopping by. And, if you love what you're seeing today, or maybe you don't, basically, if you have anything for us. Maybe that's a topic idea. Maybe you want to be on the show. Maybe you have a friend that wants to be on the show. Go over to our website at mycmgr.com. There's a button that says participate. You click that. You fill out a form. Dom, Sherry, and I get your feedback, and it's really you, your ideas, your friends that keep this community going. We just help out. So, all right, guys, what do we have this week? Well, the title of today is What to Look For in a Community Role. So you know that part of the interview where you're asked if you have any questions? We really need to utilize that better because it's really that's the question that gives us the opportunity to find out literally anything we want to know about the potential role, the boss, the company, but what do we ask next, right? So today we're going to talk about that. Shannon, who's joining us, actually her idea for the topic, so thanks, Shannon. It's always great to get people here on the show as well who filled out the form and helped us with the topic. So, all right, guys. It's important to understand you're interviewing this prospective new company just as much as they're interviewing you, right? So with that, I'll let everybody introduce themselves, starting with Sherry.
And as usual, I wasn't quite ready for that. Hey everyone, I'm Sherry Reddy. I'm the community manager at Magento, which is an open source e-commerce platform, as well as co-produce CMGR Hangout. Yeah, that's me.
And Shannon, how are you? Can anyone hear me? Are we frozen? No? Jen, you want to say hi? It looks like Shannon's having tech problems.
Okay, yeah, I'll go ahead and say hi. Hi guys, my name is Jen Chen, the new community manager at Lithium Technologies. Some of you may have seen me around on Twitter during CMGR Hangout. Love food and caffeine. Just wanted to establish that before we go on today. So, hey everybody, and happy Friday.
Hey everybody, I'll jump in here as we're getting all these technical difficulties sorted out. I am Dom, community manager for BTC Revolutions, also co-host here with Sherry and Brew, and I am really stoked for this as well. I have a great job, but at the same time it's always nice to take these questions and sort of apply them to your own company and make sure that everything's on the up and up there, and what you might want. So I'm super stoked.
Hi everybody, Charlotte here representing Europe and also co-representing Lithium Technologies. So I've got the luck of working with Jen. So I work out of London, so it's the evening now, hence it being a bit dark in the room. I'm a community consultant, so I help clients do things that Jen does in a good way. And I actually help them interview and recruit community managers quite often. I've recruited quite a few community managers in my previous position, so have an idea of questions that would also impress a recruiter that you should definitely ask if you're up for a community management position.
Hi, my name is Shannon, and I'm a community manager at Sponge.
Hi everyone. Yay, Shannon, we're glad you're back. I'm Brock. You guys have seen me on the panel and also around on Twitter, so I'm glad to be joining you guys for another awesome hangout. And this is a great topic that's really important for community managers of all the years of experience, so I'm looking forward to it. Happy Friday.
Awesome. Well, hey everybody. I'm Director of Awesome with Be the Change Revolutions, as well as co-producer here at MyCMGR. So let's just jump into the first question, which is, which attributes do you look for when looking for a new community role? So what are some things that you're looking for?
I'll jump in that one then. I'm actually going to talk about how I decided to join Lithium. So it is a community consultant job, not necessarily a community management job. One of the key attributes that encouraged me to go on the evil side of the software publisher was that they actually understood what community management was about. I spent hours and hours of conversations with people at Lithium before joining, before even considering Lithium, just debates of talking with people that understood what it was about, understood the vision, understand the strategic importance of community. And that was a bit of a light moment saying, hey, I'm accepting to spend a lot of time and energy and long hours, but as long as I'm with people that understand the value of this profession, I think it's worth my time and energy.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest attributes that if it's a community role, whether it's a startup or whether it's a big company that's hiring for community, is them knowing the difference between community and sales and social media. I've actually seen job listings that are mainly biz dev and business development being listed as community manager roles, and those are two completely different things. So definitely understanding the role of community and the importance of it, and being open to the conversation. So one of the things is that a lot of companies will create the roles based on things they've seen and based on things they think they need, and as long as they're open to the conversation of kind of developing that role with the person, that's also a really important attribute. So clear communication and flexibility is definitely important when interviewing a company for a community role.
Kind of adding on to what's been said already too, I look for, are they able to take themselves out of their own shoes, their own perspectives, and put themselves in the shoes of, let's say, the community user, of the sales team, of marketing, whatever it is. I feel like a good community manager needs to be flexible and be able to adapt to different mindsets and be able to take all that together and create this masterpiece basically out of all that.
And I mean, what you were saying, like obviously, like the community manager needs to be flexible. An attribute you could look for in the company is their flexibility. If you're talking to them and they seem like they're rigid, they seem like they're kind of cut and dry, and they're not really willing to bend on anything. You already know you're going to be going up against some fights because as we all know, like we have to be super flexible. So therefore, the people that we're working with also have to be super flexible as well. So flexibility is key. Like Patrick doing, stretches before his rock squats.
I also want to think that really their viewpoint on how important community is, as an attribute, like how seriously they take the whole concept of community. Would be a fantastic question for whoever would be interviewing me. Just kind of like, well, how important is community to this organization, and how has it benefited the organization as well, to give you a really good insight.
It sort of reminds me of, as this is all coming out and we're talking about it, I know we've had Harmony on the panel before, and she was a dating coach. It sort of seems like we're sort of talking about, like, if you're going to end up working for somebody, I mean, you're essentially in a relationship with it. So that compatibility factor of like all of these types of things, like what we do and what they do, what our thoughts are in community, what their thoughts are, how many kids do you want, what do you think of having a house with a white picket fence, all of those things all seem to sort of flow in the same sort of trail there.
Tom, you talked about flexibility, but I also think accessibility too is an important key, right? Because as we know, community managers need to really have complete access into the company. When you're looking to be that bridge between the community and the brand and the company. So I think that's probably another key attribute, is that everything's accessible.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say another attribute is making sure that they know your worth, so they don't treat you as an intern but as an actual important part of the company. A lot of conversations I've had with companies in the past have been around salary, which it's always difficult for any of us to talk about, especially as freelancers, but it's important because the work you do is going to reflect what your worth is and your values to the company. So.
Apologies for the cat, but I can't. Now I can't find my words. I
This
can't
is the
agree.
internet. You never have to apologize for a
I
cat.
can't. No, I mean I can't agree as much. That isn't French or English. But basically, exactly what she said. Community manager is a manager position. You have to create value. It's really important that you're out there and show that you are professional, that you are ambitious, and ultimately that you are a leader. And if they're not ready to take you seriously, definitely not worth going for it. I really got confused. He's patting my arm now, I'm sorry.
Like Dom said, it's the internet. You never have to apologize for a cat.
That just helped the hangout. Like, if we're being serious, cats are never a bad thing.
So, all right, let's move on to question number 2 here. Keep us moving along. What resources do you use to profile a company? This is an interesting question.
So one of the main things I personally use to profile a company is something called Glassdoor, which I don't know if you guys are actually familiar with it, but basically what it does is that it goes through past interviews that people have actually had with the company, and also employees' reviews of the company as well. And that's really important because you get honest reviews of the company that are also quite critical. And another really great thing is that, not so much great thing, but one of the issues that you actually encounter with Glassdoor is that sometimes HR or even the PR or even the communications company actually reviews the company itself. However, it's actually quite apparent whenever they do that because usually the reviews aren't critical at all. So.
I'd like to add on to that and actually, agree. Glassdoor is a great resource, but I would say take it with a grain of salt. We've all left reviews for something or the other, and sometimes there's emotions behind that, whether it's good or bad. So, while Glassdoor is a great resource, I wouldn't say trust it completely. For me personally, I have the benefit of working in the SF Bay area, so the tech industry here is pretty huge, and I have friends who work everywhere. So from time to time, I'll look at my connections, look at different people, and just tap into what do they know about this company, and they are able to then give me that insider's view on what the company is actually like.
Yeah, I think building on that, with LinkedIn, you can do a search to say which of my connections are, have this keyword, and that could be the company you're looking to get hired at or apply at, and then, as you were saying, Jen, just leverage your network further, saying like, hey, so you worked here. What's up with this place?
Yeah, I think aside from the websites, which are great, and anybody who's worked there and reaching out to people, I'm a huge fan of informational meetings, like coffee meetings with the actual companies, if they have the time. So just kind of reaching out, and if you have connections with people who have either worked there or who know somebody from the company, just to kind of separating the pressure of an interview with oh, hey, would love what you guys are doing, would love to meet with you, maybe if you have a half hour, and just sitting down and chatting with them in more of a casual conversation and just kind of getting the feel with, aside from actually applying for a job and going for an interview, whenever you can do that, it's super helpful.
To add to that, I would also recommend looking at, if it has an existing community, have a look at it. Is it a community that you would actually want to be part of? Is it a community you'd want to manage? Again, I'm taking the example of GIFGAF. GIFGAF is a UK network company, and it's so funky, it's so fun. Even though it's a fun company, it's the kind of thing that I'd want to be involved with. So having a look at the social presence, having a look at the tone of voice, having a look at the messaging and what it's already doing. Call the customer service and call the call center and see how it engages with clients. So kind of knowing that whole ecosystem and where the customer experience sits in the company, I think, is a good indicator as well.
That is super smart. I like that. We done on this one? Should we move over? Move to the third question? Yeah.
I just wanted to say that you can also do the search on Facebook as well for like your friends that work places. I know you were just talking about LinkedIn, but I know Facebook tends to be a little bit more. I mean, a lot of us have been on Facebook for so long. Our friends network on there is quite expansive, and people have changed jobs that we don't even know. Thanks to algorithms, we never see their stuff on our timeline. But you can also do, I believe it's just friends. If you search people who work, and then type in like the name of the company, it'll pull up like a list of people that work there. Some friends, some not. So you could do some messaging and some stalking that way to see what they think.
Awesome, great points. All right, guys. Question number 3 is actually, before I say that, just so everybody knows who's watching live over and hanging out with us over at Twitter, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to tweet them in. Make sure you tag at mycmgr. We'll bring your tweets in and try to answer them. So question number 3 is, are there any signs to look for to determine a company's ethics and values?
I think one major red flag for any company, if they're actually not transparent about what they do on their website, and I know this may seem very obvious, however, if you're in a situation that's very stressful, it's so easy to overlook the obvious.
So make sure that their website makes sense, basically, and clearly states what they're doing.
Basically.
Yeah, if their website and also the people interviewing you cannot like clearly articulate what their company does, you should probably really beware of that.
Exactly.
I think adding on to that, asking, what's the company vision, strategy, things like that should be clear to anyone who works at the company. So they should be able to explain that. And if they can't, like Shannon and Sherry said, that's a huge red flag. Also on, checking their social networks, like their blog, Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is, I would take a look at how they interact with their customers or their users. Is it in a way that you would want to communicate with, with people if you work there? Is it friendly? Is it helpful? Is it the kind of thing that you're looking for?
Yeah, and just to quickly interject, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
One big warning sign is let's say if they're all about single transactions versus multiple transactions, because as a community manager, one of your primary goals is to have multiple transactions and build those meaningful relationships, especially in the community.
Yeah, and I think another thing you guys mentioned the website and everything and whether or not they're transparent. If they're not, another thing on the website and just overall communication is whether or not they acknowledge their team members and the people who work. If their about us doesn't include the people who work there, it's kind of a red flag for me. And especially because I've been in this situation before where I've been desperate for a job as I will be evicted in 2 days if I can't find a job kind of situation. And when somebody contacts you, just like, yes, immediately, I will start working with you. And then you get in there and you don't get to meet anybody who's working there, or it's very hush-hush, or you're not even allowed to tell people you're working there. And it's just like, why? What are you hiding? If you're not proud of the place you work and if you're not proud of your team, then there's definitely something wrong with the culture and the way you're running your business.
I'm going to quick bring in a question we got over from Twitter. It's from Kira Moore. Kira, thanks for dropping by and hanging out with us on a Friday. She says, question, as a Hangout show co-host, and specifically the word at Keenan, how would you approach finding a match for a CMGR? One time every 2 weeks for an hour? I think I'll just toss out, probably actually hang out at other shows, or things that are going on online. Normally, those community managers who are managing Twitter or helping even manage live on the show participate in different shows as well. And I know Jen just said, basically stalk people in our chat here, and that's I don't know. Dom, do you have anything that you would say?
I mean, that's what I was going to say. I mean, not only just hang out there, but talk with other like co-hosts. Like if you're paying attention to other shows, and actually big shout out to Kira because she was on Blab last night. I was just doing this random Blab and she asked a CMGR question. So I was like, come hang out with us on Friday. So exactly what you're doing here, just hanging out, like do that a bunch of other places. Ask people where they are at. And then, you know, if you're looking for a community manager, most of the time, like co-hosts, like I know Brew and Sherry and I, like, you know, we've like, reference people to other hangouts and other different types of projects all the time. You know, a lot of times when you're hanging around this group, people just know each other. So ask the question if anybody knows somebody, and odds are you're going to have a pool of people to talk to.
I would also look inside your own community and see if there's anyone there who is already a part of your community that would be a good fit to moderate your show every 2 weeks or whatever it is that you're looking for in a community role.
That's like exactly what happened with Kristen Cardos. Like I know she's always in here, but she did so much stuff with like Brian Fanzo and all of his stuff, and now, you know, she's actually doing community management for like all of his chats, and it all sort of started just from her being involved in the community. So that's a great point, Sherry.
Yeah, actually on that note, we actually have 3 new people to welcome to the team. One is Barack, who's on the chat now, who's writing for us. One is Patrick, who's also now writing for us. And funny that you mentioned Kristen because she can't get enough, and she's going to be joining us on the Twitter side of things starting later this month. So really excited to have all 3 of them on. And in all 3 of those cases, they were really active in our community, so when we had a need, we reached out to them and asked.
I think adding on to earlier Mike comment about stalking people, I mean this in a non-creepy way. And so, you know, as you look around at different shows, tweets, social, you know, in your own community, things like that, I would definitely recommend kind of sensing the personality that you see behind each person. So, you know, when I first came on CMG or Hangout, what I love that is that everybody has their own personality, and it comes across on Hangout. So in that way, you're able to see like who we get along with, who we can banter with. Like I banter with Patrick a lot. Yeah, so you know, in that sense, you'll be able to see kind of who might be a good fit for your community.
Awesome. Well, let's jump us into the next question. Question number 4. Nope. Yeah. So how do you determine if your new boss would be a good fit? Ooh, I like that.
I love when you
like. Oh, go ahead.
With the questions. You're like, oh, I like that. I'm just gonna say, I think it's part of just kind of going with the theme of conversation and flexibility, right? It's if you are having an interview with your new boss and it's very stale and they're not very open and personable and you can't get a read on them, there's a difference between being super professional when you're interviewing somebody and then also just kind of remembering that you're going to work with this person and being engaging with them even in an interview. Like it's because that person is going to be your champion, right? In the community, in the company, in the community, that person's the one you can go and talk to. When I was interviewing for my job at Fluke, who I was working with before I started working with Google and a couple other companies, I love my boss. I'm still in touch with her, and she was a great champion. And she totally, when I started working, she sent out an email. She introduced me to everybody. She took me around and introduced me to a lot of new departments and a lot of the engineers, so they knew who I was instead of keeping me in kind of a silo. And that's really important. Is your manager and your direct boss is your champion. They're the person that's going to be fighting for you. And when it comes to community things, when you're dealing with other departments, whether it's a small company or a big company, whatever it is. So in that initial interview, sometimes it's a little nerve-wracking, but if by the second interview and the second conversation you have with them, they're not open and they're not breaking down that wall of just being super business, super strict all the time, then there might be an issue. But you just have to ask those questions, like about the work culture and what they expect and what they really enjoyed. If you're replacing somebody, if somebody's left the company, what they enjoyed working with, when working with the person who was there before you, and just kind of get those personality aspects out with the questions, the right questions that you're asking them.
Here's a question that totally throws off. If you know that the person who's interviewing you will eventually be your boss, and they ask for like what other questions you have, just say, I'm just curious, what's your leadership style, right? And that I mean that's to me, I prefer certain types of leadership styles, and hopefully somebody who can articulate what type of leader they are.
I think actually adding on to Bruce's comment, not only what is this person's leadership style, but what is their communication style? Some people communicate in different ways, and some styles work for some people, others don't. So if they're the type that have the same style as you, that's great. If not, then you'll need to work something out, and it's good to know that early on.
Yeah, if you're someone that needs a lot of direction, then you need to know that your boss is someone that likes to give a lot of direction. Whereas if you prefer being more like hands-off and just talk goals and objectives and then run with it, like you need to make sure that that's the page that your boss is on. I know people that prefer both styles. It's just a matter of making sure that you're with the right fit boss for you for whatever your style is.
I think what a lot of this boils down to is like you have to really, like everybody always says, put your best foot forward, like when you're going into job interviews, obviously, but you have to make sure you're being authentic to your true self. Because in an interview, or even in a couple of interviews, obviously you want to try really hard to be, like I want to be my best Dom, but at the same time, it's like I might not always be my best Dom every single day. I need to make sure that I'm very, very true to the way that I am and super honest, because in jobs like this, I mean, it's not something where you're just punching in and then punching out, Like these are jobs that require you to be on and, your personality and your full engagement. So if you're trying to fake it, like just like you can't fake it with your community, like you can't fake it in a job interview because, you might be able to do it for 6 months, but you're going to hate yourself for doing that.
I would like to add on to that as well. I need to have a boss that has a sense of humor because I basically have a very bad sense of humor. So if he laughs at my jokes, that's a good thing. Bonus if he likes cats. Other thing as well, I think that's important is who he brings to the interview. If he only kind of leads one-to-one interviews, I'm like, okay, it does show a lot on terms of his management skills. If he makes me meet loads of different people in the company, potentially my future colleagues, his boss's boss, or even somebody from a completely different part of the organization, it does give a lot of sense of who you're going to be working with and what kind of boss your boss is. I know that for my position at the moment, I interviewed with 8 different people, not because they wanted to know my skills, but they wanted to make sure that I would get on with everybody, and I just really liked that initiative. It just kind of confirmed that I would get on and fit in the company.
And I think another really great thing is also to have a boss who can actually provide a mentorship role as well.
Yeah, totally. Mentorship is very important.
Agreed.
So I kind of want to add to that again with this story of being on the other side. When I hired one of my interns when I was in the video games company I previously worked with, so during the interview I actually asked him a question to test both his English abilities and also his sense of humor. So I asked him, so as a community manager for this brand, there's a zombie outbreak tomorrow, what would you do? And in terms of answers, I got some very professional answers saying something boring, basically. Somebody actually told me, oh, I'm going to build a website. I'm like, yeah, I'm not hiring you. The one that we ended up hiring was the one who basically managed to give me, like, use that case of zombie outbreak and apply it really to community management, and it actually proved his sense of leadership as well, which was really good. So proving that sense of leadership and actually following the boss's train of thought, I think, is a very good thing to consider as well.
So immediately raiding the liquor store to get all the Fireball would I have gotten hired? If that
I
would
think
have been
so, yeah, because you got a sense of humor, and then we could go and get drinks together. So yeah.
No, but Don's actually serious.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fine.
But let's say there's not a zombie outbreak. Can we still get a bunch of Fireball?
Yeah, you just kind of describe it differently, and it's fine. It's like, yeah, my boss is a pain in the neck and stuff like that.
Uh, all right. Dom, does your boss drive you to drink? Is that the problem?
Maybe.
I think his boss encourages him to drink.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things, like when you're talking about like being on the other side of it. Like I'll share this and it's fine. Like I obviously work with Brew. I work on the same account as Brew. Brew was the one that interviewed me. Like, and it all came from this. So if you want to try to find a community manager, like we said, hang out in these hangouts. It works. But it's one of those things, like Brew is like basically my direct supervisor, and at the same time, like you know when you're able to get along with somebody and have a friendship, but at the same time, when it takes that mentorness and it takes that, hey, what's going on, and the tough love, it's like one of those things. Community management is not easy, and if you have somebody that's a supervisor, it's like you're not going to be perfect. You're going to mess up. So, an attribute you could look for is somebody that you think that not only could sort of, tell you what they need you to do, but also when you mess up, be able to deal with it in a positive manner to make you feel, the appropriate amount of shitty to do better next time. That's I think really big on this.
All right, we have another question from Twitter. Stephen Fell, thanks for hanging out with us, asks, what are your thoughts on the plethora of CM jobs that actually turn out to be social marketing? Is the CM title being overused? Thoughts?
Easy answer,
Oh my
yes.
God, I held that. I hate that. The French, bless them, no, not bless them, they do it all the time. Like, community manager is this kind of funky thing that the French adore, and they put an intern to manage the Twitter account, and it's a kind of joke of the person who can write the most stupidest thing on Twitter to get the most retweets. And that is how 90% of French companies see community management, and it drives me insane. Rant over. I agree with Stephen's observation that I do think that the term community manager is overused. I think that, again, community managers do everything. They do so many varied different things within the company, and it's really hard for people to actually get a definition they agree on. So short answer, yes, and short answer, social media manager is not a community manager. And I'll let other people talk now.
I had a recent position where it was much more customer service focused as well. So I think that's one key question you have to ask the potential employer in the interview is what is their definition of community management.
Yeah, and I think a lot of misconceptions, and I think I mentioned this in the beginning about there are a lot of biz dev and sales positions that are marketed or that are listed as community management positions, but I think that's important too when you're interviewing the company or when you're even reaching out to kind of clarify your position and your experience and just be like, look, this is what I'm bringing to the table. This is my experience. I noticed that these are the things that you listed. Are you also going to be building the community? I think a lot of the problem is that a lot of the companies who are creating these positions and hiring is they know that this is something they need, but they don't know how to go about it. So it's kind of our job, even though we're interviewing, to kind of educate the company. And that kind of goes back to the flexibility things. Like when you're interviewing with them, just to kind of, when you're asking them the right questions, also educate them on what you think a community role for their company would be. So that's where it comes into play that we do our homework and we look at the company and the community that they have and just to kind of be like, okay, this is what they need, this is what they actually need. And I mean, it's kind of, the misconception is there and we all know that. So as community managers, if we want our field to be growing in the right direction, we kind of have to take that and remember that, yeah, social media is the misconception and we have to just educate the people and be like, this is the tool, here is what I think your community needs, is this the position that you're actually hiring for? It's kind of extra work, but if we like the company and they're flexible, then you actually have a chance to build that position out and help the company while helping yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
David DeWald, I just want to quick bring in this tweet because he said this before on previous shows, and I always love it. And Brock, you touch on it as well. As social media is a tool of a CM, it shouldn't be their whole job. But I also want to say that I think the other thing I heard, which I believe, is sometimes these companies don't actually know what they're asking for in the first place, right? And if you do research and you look around, it seems like community manager is something you probably need, right? I think it's just up to us as community managers when we're seeking jobs to help educate these employers to say, hey, is that all? Because here's what a community manager can do. Here's what I'm capable of. And here's what this role means to me. And I also believe that even in social media marketing, you can apply the disciplines and philosophies of community management and really build actual communities and make it work. So don't want to discount that either.
Yeah, and actually this question is pretty much exactly where I came up with question 1 from. Like, obviously community manager is a good keyword search for starting to look for jobs, but read those descriptions and look carefully and ask questions, because you can't always trust the job title. You have to look at what the actual expected duties and goals are.
I've actually got a friend that just started a job recently. So she's actually a community manager, like a forum community manager. And within the second week of her job, she got told, oh, and what about the Twitter? And what about the Facebook? And she came to me like, oh my God, how the hell am I supposed to do that? I've never done Twitter or Facebook. I've only done forums. So definitely make sure that you know what you're getting into.
I think adding on to what Charlotte said, and others have said too, not only understanding what you're getting into, but if they're open to changing. So, for example, if what they see as a community manager role is very social media and things like that, like, are they open to your perspective, your changes, and let's say your proposals for running a community? I think in that way, if the company is open, then lucky you found a great fit. But if not, and if they're very set on what they want you to do, then maybe it's time to look for another position.
And it's one of those things too. It's like, this is your opportunity. Like, we are all professionals. We get community, or at least we pretend really well to get community. Like, these people that are interviewing us, like, sometimes it's people that don't understand it. And if they don't, like, this is your opportunity as the professional to tell them what it is, to go in, like, not a way of going, you probably need to take your community to here, but like, this is where it's at. Okay, where do you see me taking it? This is where I think it could go, because that shows them that you have, if you want to get hired, you show somebody that you have some gumption, you show them that you have a little bit of drive, and that'll go a really long way.
All right, one more question from Twitter here before we move along. Susie, thanks for hanging out with us. So Susie has a question. She says, what are some resources available that can help educate people on community management?
Community manager hangout.
Awesome.
No, actually, to be honest, unbiased, anyway, you know what I mean. That's actually, one of the resources that I used when I first started community management. And I am biased because I do work for Lithium, but before I did, the Lithium community, I think if you are running a community and use a certain service or platform, definitely go to that services community and poke around there, because it's all community managers on there. People are super willing to help each other out. And Twitter too, there's a lot of chats like this one that are really helpful and useful, and then I think in that way you start to connect with other people in the same field. And I think the huge benefit of working in a field like this is that people are always willing to help each other out and share their experiences.
Yeah, I would build on that, which is really, really great advice, and also say check out things like the Community Roundtable State of Community Management Survey, looking at what kind of programming people are putting in place in community roles, what their salaries are like, what kind of level of leadership they're in. Things like that are really important to understand, like greater picture, what people in community roles are doing and how they're getting paid.
And another resource too, like if you want to think about community outside of just like a lot of times you get stuck into thinking community is just social media. We all know that it's not. A group that really that hits on that is CMX as well. I know that if you mention social media, if you say that you're a social media manager or a social media community or something like that, like David Spinks will jump at you right away and be like, it's not just social media. So. Anything with CMX as well. I know they have a summit coming up in October in San Francisco, so check that stuff out too.
I would also recommend spending some time digging back some good old research. Research on game design. It teaches you a lot on how to create habits, how people go back and perform things over and over again. Motivational theories. What was it again that I was thinking? Rewards as well. So how do you reward a community? Like, do you give them free stuff all the time? No. Do you give them a pat on the back? Yes. And as well, another author that I really like is Seth Godin. Seth Godin wrote a lot of books on tribal marketing. How do people work in groups? How do tribes work? And how can you influence tribes as well? So definitely look into those resources. And Google Books is a very good resource for that. And all of the kind of paper and research that's been done on CRM as well often touches about customer relationship management in general.
Do we have a question in chat that we just want to, it says, what was the first one? Oh, okay. Sorry.
Well, I was just asking what the first resource she said was because I was busy retweeting the tweet about her cat and I missed the actual detail. I heard the description and not what it was.
Of the author or?
Yeah, I heard Seth Godin, but what was the first one?
So I read it in French, the book. I think it's called Tribes. That's ow, he's like patting me now. Sorry, I'll put him out next time. Stop the cute effect. And it's just general research on game design, gamification, motivational theory, rewards as well. Anything that you can kind of look into.
Yeah, okay. I read a book actually along those lines that's in English for anyone who doesn't speak French called For the Win, and it talks a lot about intrinsic and extrinsic rewards and the game principles, game design principles behind gamification, because it's not as simple as just designing a bunch of pretty badges. It's way more complicated than that.
And it's a short book. It's an easy book to read.
Is this the book you're talking about, Tribes?
Yes, definitely worth reading. I actually started, like when I was doing my research, I actually started in tribal marketing, which has been it's been a discipline for quite a while before it got called community management. So definitely that, and the For the Win, I think it's Kevin Werbach that wrote it.
Yeah,
it's really very, very easy to read, and it helps putting names on things and explaining things differently, and just maybe gives you a different perspective on how to do your job.
I also want to say that this is one of my favorite TED Talks by Seth called The Tribes We Lead from February 2009. So if you just go to TED Talks, search for Seth and Tribes, you should find it. I think it's like 19 minutes or 17 and a half minutes, but it's it's really, really good.
That is single talk. I don't think I have heard people reference a single TED Talk more than that specific one. Maybe like Brené Brown, but like that one is that's game changing. So homework for everybody. CMGR Hangout goes an extra 20 minutes long, and you have to watch that immediately after this.
Yeah, we should just quit now so everyone can go watch that. All right, let's get through our next questions, which I'm scrolling. I'm looking at my notes. Okay, number 5. What are some key questions to ask during the interview? So I think we covered some of these in the other questions, but what do you think some real key questions are that you want to make sure for sure you asked?
I like that we already covered the management style one earlier. Another thing I would say to do is ask them about the programming they have in place and what they're proud of and what their challenges have been, and kind of get a feel for the behind the scenes of their community if they already have one.
I think not only the current program challenges and things like that, but what are the current challenges and goals of the company? What are the strategies and things that the company wants to accomplish in the next year? And I think to like what the company culture is like, what that person's like working style and communication style, like we mentioned before, and also like their thinking process. So this is kind of weird, but I got asked this one time in an interview, and it's something that I've turned the tables on and asked other people, like asking their thinking process through something. So the specific question that I got asked one time was, imagine that I'm an alien coming from outer space, and I have these sneakers, I need to tie my shoes. How would you instruct me how to do that? And in someone's response to that, you can see, A, do they have a sense of humor? And B, what is their thinking process? And can you align with that? Can you work with that?
Yeah, I think another question to ask is why they're why they're hiring for this role, like we've touched on this, but like just kind of like, okay, so you guys want a community manager. What are your goals for the actual community? What are you hoping to achieve, and what are resources? And another good question is, what are the resources that this position will have? Because a lot of the time, you interview for a community position, and they know what a community manager does. They are on the right track. It's not just a social media position, but there are absolutely no resources and no budget behind you, and you're expected to do everything for free and just like kind of scrappy. And with startups, yeah, but I've also worked with big companies that are just kind of expect you to be scrappy, and they think that they don't need to, like, just hiring you is resource enough. And so asking about the resources that will be available to the position, and also career growth. It's not something that we often ask, but when you're interviewing, kind of seeing where they expect to see this role grow and what are opportunities within the company and what's the company culture, those are really important.
Yeah, I always say ask this one simple question: what does success look like? That because that's something you should know right off the bat, is how you're going to win, right?
I think another thing is, if you're coming into a role that somebody else has been there before, like ask what their challenges and what their victories are. Because most of the time you get a chance to chat with those people, but mostly that's as you are already like accepted in the position and they're helping train you in their role. But if you ask like what some of the other like roadblocks were, like the stuff we talk about every single week on these panels, like if you sort of go to like, what were some of the roadblocks, what were some of the successes, what does success look like for you, where do you want to take it moving forward, things like that. Just getting all of the information on the past, trying to get as much as you can, because it definitely helps you moving forward.
And adding to what Bruce said, what does success look like? How is success measured? So again, if the company says, oh, we want to increase engagement, like, well, okay, well, how do you measure that? Is it like people that post on your forums? Is it people that tweet you? Is it people that, you just want to know how that's measured. And if they can give you an answer, it also means that they're serious about the community strategy, which potentially means that it's a good company to work for. If they don't know the answer to that, it also means, well, I can help you to find that, and then it gives you more credibility to do your job.
I think adding on to that too, being more specific, saying like, what do you expect to see from me, or what would you like to see from me in, say, the next 6 months, in the next year or so. Think, and in that way, you can kind of see, do they have a vision for this community? Do they have a vision for you and like your growth, as well as the community's role within the community, not community's role within the company, sorry.
All right, so moving into our final question of the day, question number 6. What other tips do you have for analyzing a potential community role? So, and I would even peel that back even further and just say, like, let's just talk about tips. On this entire subject, we have about 8 minutes, so go for it. No one's got any tips?
I think what I really like with community managers is that it's actually a great community of community managers. I've been working with Lithium for 2 years now. I don't think I've ever met one community manager that I haven't liked. Always willing to share tips, share experiences like here. Just be part of the community of community managers, talk with them, exchange with them, go to meetups, and that's definitely a great thing to learn more about the job, what other people are doing, and hopefully help you learn more for your interview and land the job and earn all the money and stuff.
Another tip, like getting involved in the community, is obviously like there's a lot of really free resources. But if it's something where you're going in and you're interviewing, if you know of specific resources that do cost money, whether it's certain programs, things that you've heard of that you think would work, conferences, things like that, you bring those up in the interview. Because if they do like you and they want you to be there, it's almost like adding it into your package. Like if you say you want to be able to go to X conference or X amount of conferences, something like that, to help you to be able to help the community, sort of like that, you frame it like that, you're going to learn a lot that's going to take you much further than just that job. Because we change jobs all the time, and then it's also going to just help you overall with your connections.
Yeah, and I think, and if this has been said already, I apologize, but when you're looking, if the community is already there and it already exists, ask them what's not working. Like, ask them what you want to be fixed in the community and what's broken, because there's a good chance there's something that they want to improve on, and kind of hearing it from them and getting them to think about it if they haven't already, it might help you out when you're interviewing the company.
I really like some of the answers that are on Twitter. Definitely worth following that. The fact of having a trial period as well. So Kristin Cardos mentioned that is really important. Sometimes when you're a community manager, you start working with the community, with the rest of the brand, and you just realize that you don't fit. You can also it's always good for you to have an escape path as well.
Excellent. Well, Sherry, what do we have going on next week?
I'm actually not sure yet. We have something in the works, but it's not finalized yet. So,
all right.
But definitely, as always, if you have suggestions, send them our way. mycmjr.com/participate. A lot of our topics come from the community. This one was actually Shannon's idea, so excited to have her on panel today.
I do have one thing to add too. I know that it's technically a day late, but yesterday was Sherry's birthday, and so people that didn't wish her a happy birthday, now it's time to absolutely blow her up on every single.
Actually, yeah, and here's what we're gonna do. If everyone could unmute themselves, we're going to attempt to sing Sherry happy birthday. Are you ready?
What if we can't sing?
That's all right.
Can I just mouth the words?
Just get through it. All right? Ready? So on the count of 3, we'll sing her happy birthday. And then everyone on Twitter, tweet her happy birthday as well. So ready? 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Sherry. Happy birthday to you.
Thanks, guys. That was amazing.
And now we know we can never form a band.
Ever.
Well, just on Google Hangouts.
That's now recorded for life.
Yeah.
Like the little bit of latency between everybody singing it sounded like a round in my head. It was wonderful.
All right, everybody. Well, hey, we'll see you next week. Have a great weekend, and take it easy. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah.